This is my first time to Monterey, and I had no idea. Coming over this morning, looking up at the mountains, I thought, how beautiful, what a wonderful place. And how wonderful to be here with all of you. I'd only been to Mexico one time before. I went to the lagoon in San Ignacio in Baja, and I had the pleasure of swimming with the gray whales. And that was an experience of the natural beauty of Mexico. And today I've seen the natural beauty, but also in my time here, how beautiful the people are. And I mean, as human beings, all of you have welcomed us in an unbelievable way. Such generosity, such hospitality. You've made me feel so welcome, and I thank you so much for that. My life changed 7 years ago when I fell from a horse and broke my neck and injured my spinal cord, and I was told that I would never regain any movement below my shoulders, and that my life would be confined to home, a wheelchair. I probably wouldn't get to go anywhere. That was 7 years ago. And now I'm moving. And I'm not staying at home, I'm traveling all over the world. And it's a dream beyond my wildest expectations, because they said it was impossible. And that's really what I want to talk about today. I've written a book recently called Nothing is Impossible. And I don't mean that pigs are going to fly, but I mean that inside of us there are resources, there is potential, there's inner power that comes from a higher source that we take for granted or we don't even know about until we face some kind of adversity. And then we see the world in a very different way. And we realize that we're not alone and that we need help from other people. But the point is, you don't need to break your neck to understand that. Because all of us can grow up realizing that, yes, we have basic needs. We need food, we need shelter, we need love, security, opportunity. But what really makes life special, what makes life worth living, is that we have an opportunity from the minute, really, as we are growing up, we have the opportunity not to be selfish, to grow up thinking about other people. And there's 6 billion of us on this planet right now. And if we all just think about ourselves, well, then this planet will be in big trouble. But already what you're doing and what you understand is the idea of leaving a trace, of leaving a mark. And I think that's what we all want to do most. that we want to do something. We want to do something that helps other people. And we can do that whether we're lucky and privileged, like me, or we can do it no matter what our situation is in life. And people often ask me, how do we change the world? How do we make it a better place? What can we do? People often say, I'm nobody, I'm just nobody. I live in a little village and I don't have any power. But the fact is, you do have power. You absolutely do have the power to make a difference. Just making a difference in the lives of people right next to you. And if we do that one by one, do it with our families, then do it with our communities, then it just expands, it grows and grows, and reaches all over the world. And it's very important that that happens now, because in the world today there's a very big gap between people who have a lot and people who have nothing, who have very little. So, for example, I have a lot. And it took an accident this serious for me to understand how much I had. And I wish I could have learned another way. But I think it's very important for me now. I've learned a lesson that my injury, my accident means nothing unless I can use it to leave a trace. Unless I can do it to make scientists, governments, the media, and the populace, and people everywhere aware of how many people are like me, but they have nothing. So yes, we're fighting for a cure, and that cure will come. And meantime, we're fighting for the basic rights of people who are disabled. People to have jobs, to have recreation, to have transportation, to have dignity. And those of us who are in a position of privilege, we have to make sure that we do that job so that the world becomes a more equal place. And I think while we may differ politically around the world, different governments have different political ideas, the real power in the world comes from ordinary people. And it comes especially from young people, from people who get an education and who do something with that education, who take a bold course. They don't do just what they're expected to do. They go further. They do a little more. They learn more. They try more. They travel. They learn. They reach out. And that takes courage sometimes, because often we grow up and we're told that this is all you can expect, no more. Just as I was told after my injury, you'll be in a wheelchair forever, you'll never move, then that's all you can expect. Well, if we all we're to believe everything that people tell us, that they say is absolute, we'd never go anywhere. The people who have achieved things in this world have said, I don't believe it. There are no limits. I don't know what the limits are. I'm going to go out and try. I may fail. I may be uncomfortable. I may be lonely. I may lose friends, who don't understand. But if each person has the courage to really do something that is generous, something that challenges, something that answers the little voice inside us that knows what's right, that little voice, we can hear it when we're quiet. And it tells us whether we're doing the right thing or not, whether we're thinking about ourselves or thinking about others. And if you can't hear that little voice, you just have to be quiet. You just have to take time. And then it will speak to all of us. Our culture doesn't encourage that. Our culture, meaning Mexico, Canada, the United States, most of the Western world, our culture tells us to be successful. And that if we're successful, then we're going to be happy. And that we're taught that those are the goals. But there's one other goal that actually is more important. And that's also what we should hold in mind the most. And what we should do ourselves and teach to our children. And that is just to be good. And if we just think about doing good, then being happy or being successful will take care of itself, because you can be very rich, very famous, and be successful in that material way and feel very, very empty inside. Many people do. You can bet that being happy, you can't be happy every day. Some days are miserable, and you know that. Some days you think there's no hope. Some days you think you don't know what to do. You don't know what your life is about. Some days are very depressing, and particularly for other people who I see here in wheelchairs with disabilities, who every day have to face the challenge of answering the question, how do I live another day? So no, you're not going to be happy all the time. But one thing you can do is try to be good. And to be good is so much simpler than it sounds. It doesn't mean to be perfect. It doesn't mean to be, better than anybody else. It simply means to be a decent human being. Just to be a nice person. And I think we all know what that means. And if someone told me, actually my son in school, he was only 10, and the teachers were talking to us parents at a meeting one day. And one of the teachers made that point and said, you may think that your children are here in school to learn to be successful. No. You may think that they're here in school to learn how to be happy. No. We don't care about that. We're just trying to teach them to be good. And then the rest will follow. And I think It's not a question of religion. It's not a question of society or the way we're brought up, whether we have good parents, bad parents, or no parents. It's something inside all of us that we can understand if we just listen. And leaving a trace will be the result if we just think in that terms. Just think about, what could I do that would help somebody? What could I do that might make somebody's day better? And happiness and success will follow. Give you one example. My brother Kevin graduated from college, and then he got a job teaching at a very rich school in Washington, D.C. for privileged children. You know, the sons and daughters of diplomats and politicians. And he taught there for 1 year and realized, this is not what I want to do. This is not making me happy. And so he quit and he went to Togo, a small country in Africa, with only a knapsack full of clothes. And he stayed there for 2 years, building houses and building schools and helping in the rural communities. And he came back from that experience more satisfied, more happy than he ever would have been if he'd stayed teaching at that rich school. He went where he was needed. He had the sense that there's something more than what he was brought up to believe. And, you know, for me, I spent a lot of my youth trying to be successful, trying to be happy through being successful. And I was. In fact, I'm known for that. Because probably most of you first got to know me by seeing me as Superman, as the hero, larger than life, up on the big screen. Just now when I came on, they played this Superman music. Well, that was good. I mean, that was okay. That was success, made me famous. But you know, I think that perhaps this accident was a very important lesson. I first thought after the accident that my life was over. But in the years since the accident, having so many things taken away, physical freedom, having to endure pain, nearly dying twice. But now I learned something very different. And I think that even though Superman and my career and all of those things were important, I think that this accident, instead of ending my life, it actually was a new beginning. And for me, I had to learn this lesson. I had to be made more humble through having a serious accident. That's the path that perhaps was chosen for me. But for all of you, I recommend taking that path without being in a wheelchair. You'll find it a lot easier. But the path can be the same. And so when people say to me sometimes, how do you deal with it, and the pain and the depression? And I say, well, actually, right now, I'm more free than I ever was. And I am more clear about what I'm supposed to do. And now I see how I can help. And I didn't know those things before. So one of the reasons I wanted to come down here and accept your very generous invitation was to commend all of you for your commitment to leaving a trace, for making a difference, for changing society, for helping others, for doing the best, for looking inside to see what's best inside yourselves, for doing that now while you're students, while you're young, because you're the future. I used to think I was young, but I just turned 50, so that's over. But you are the future. You are already on the right path. I had to learn it the hard way. But it's nice to know, I feel as I come down here, I feel very close to you because I think that we're on the same path together. And I just want to send you my love, even though you're strangers. I've never met you. But that doesn't matter because there really are no strangers. Just people who have not yet met. So, I congratulate you for what you're doing. You're on the right path. Never turn back. Thank you, and now I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you. Thank you.
A continuación tendremos